Welcome to another fascinating episode of Psych with Sigmund. Today, we're going to delve into a captivating psychological concept that can help you better understand yourself and others: transactional analysis. This insightful framework, developed by Eric Berne, has been a cornerstone in psychology for decades, offering a unique perspective on human behavior, communication, and relationships. So, what is transactional analysis? In simple terms, it's the study of how we interact with others based on three primary ego states: parent, adult, and child. These ego states are not necessarily related to our actual age, but rather to the way we think, feel, and behave in different situations. The parent ego state is like a nurturing figure, providing guidance and protection. The adult ego state is logical and rational, making decisions based on facts. The child ego state is emotional and spontaneous, seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. Eric Berne developed this concept in the 1950s as a way to explain how people interact with each other. He observed that our interactions are often driven by unconscious patterns and scripts that we learned in childhood. By recognizing these patterns, we can gain insight into our motivations, emotions, and behaviors. The theoretical background of transactional analysis is rooted in several major psychological theories, including psychoanalysis and social learning theory. Berne was influenced by Sigmund Freud's concept of the id, ego, and superego, as well as the work of psychologists like Alfred Adler and Karen Horney. He also drew on his own experiences as a psychiatrist, working with patients who struggled with communication and relationship issues. Research has shown that transactional analysis is an effective tool for improving relationships, communication, and emotional intelligence. For example, studies have found that people who are aware of their ego states tend to be more empathetic and better listeners. They're also less likely to engage in conflict or passive-aggressive behavior. On the other hand, research has also highlighted some limitations of transactional analysis, such as its lack of empirical support for certain aspects of the theory. Imagine you're working on a team project, and one of your colleagues is being overly critical and bossy. You might feel like responding with anger or defensiveness, but instead, you take a step back and recognize that your colleague is operating from a parent ego state. By acknowledging this, you can choose to respond from your adult ego state, calmly and logically addressing the issues at hand. In therapy, transactional analysis is often used to help clients identify and change unhelpful communication patterns. For instance, a therapist might work with a client to recognize when they're interacting from a child ego state, becoming overly emotional or defensive. By acknowledging this pattern, the client can learn to respond more effectively, using their adult ego state to communicate their needs and feelings. Another example of how transactional analysis can be applied is in leadership development. Leaders who are aware of their ego states tend to be more effective communicators and better at building trust with their teams. They're also less likely to micromanage or dominate conversations, allowing others to contribute and share their ideas. In addition to its practical applications, transactional analysis has also been used in education and training programs to improve communication and conflict resolution skills. For example, teachers can use transactional analysis to create a more supportive and inclusive classroom environment where students feel heard and valued. As we explore the concept of transactional analysis further, it's essential to acknowledge some of the controversies and debates surrounding this theory. Some critics argue that the concept of ego states is too simplistic, or that it doesn't account for individual differences in personality or cultural background. However, proponents of transactional analysis argue that it provides a useful framework for understanding human behavior and improving relationships. In conclusion, transactional analysis offers a powerful framework for understanding human behavior, communication, and relationships. By recognizing our ego states and how they interact with others, we can gain valuable insights into our motivations, emotions, and behaviors. As you go about your day, take notice of the different hats you wear in various social situations. Are you interacting from a parent, adult, or child ego state? Remember, awareness is the first step to change. As we wrap up this episode, I'd like to leave you with a thought-provoking question. How might your relationships and communication style change if you were more aware of your ego states and those of others? Take some time to reflect on this and consider how you can apply the principles of transactional analysis in your own life. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, may your ego find balance between pleasure and reality.